Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's careers webinar with Udacity. And our very special guest tonight, we have our hiring partner, NVIDIA, joining us tonight for this webinar. I will have a pleasure to introduce them in a few seconds. But just before we start, I would like to describe a little bit how we are going to go about it and the structure of the webinar so that you're prepared and you can actually participate. In a few moments, we will have a short presentation coming from NVIDIA, talking about who they are and what is so great about them and why you should go and work there. Then we want to thank you for all of your submitted questions, because we will go through as many as possible. There have been a lot of questions coming in, so we chose something that we find most relevant. And then after some time, we will open up the floor for the chat and questions coming right there. So make sure that you are signed up with YouTube, that you have a profile so that you can actually post questions. Christopher is here with me and he will be monitoring the chat. So feel free to ask anything that we might have missed or that triggered your curiosity. And we will then have around 15 minutes to dedicate to that. After that, we will wrap up the webinar. And yeah, tomorrow we will send a recording for everyone who cannot follow right now. We will make sure you actually get the video. Because we have people joining from all around, not only Europe, but world. This is going to be in English. Yeah, I think this is all about the logistical part. So I would like to welcome our tonight's guests. We have Caroline Redline, who is coming as a senior recruiter for EMEA region. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you, Millie. I'm glad to be here.
We are very, very glad to have you. And with us, we have Jan Jamaszczyk, coming as a software solution architect on autonomous driving. So welcome, Jan.
Hi, everyone.
Without further ado, I will give the floor to you, Caroline, to maybe present a little bit NVIDIA, and then we will go right into questions.
Okay. I'm very excited to have you all in the webinar. This is actually, we just discussed this. Jan and I do this for the first time. So I'm looking forward to the open forum at the end where I can interact with you. I would like to give you some insights on NVIDIA, EMEA. We have like 15 sites in EMEA. Munich, where I'm based, is the second biggest office. I focus a lot on automotive roles. So most of the automotive roles are based in Munich. We have a couple in Berlin, and we have also a couple of developers in Finland. The biggest site in EMEA is Moscow. And all over EMEA, we have about 1,000 people working in the different sites. So it's pretty exciting. And we are a very diverse company. So if I look at the population in the Munich office, I would say we have 70% of international people. So for us, it's really important to hire the best talent with the best background. And we don't care about where people come from. We want to work as a team in a diverse and international environment. So maybe, Jan, you can tell a little bit about you, because, yeah, people, I guess, are interested. Jan is working in our autonomous driving team. And of course, they are very close, and they do everything about cars and, yeah, the entire ride of the autonomous driving.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Jan Jamaszczyk. I'm a software solution architect for autonomous driving. What this actually means is that we're bridging the gap between our sales and marketing people and our engineering team. So whenever we have a new customer that wants to start a new project using NVIDIA technology, we are probably the first one to be in contact with them. And our main duty is to guide them into the right direction, how they can efficiently use NVIDIA technology. And in later stages, if they choose to sign up with NVIDIA for a project, to help them with bug triage, so yeah, supporting them with all the issues they encounter using our technology.
Great. I think this was our first introduction. We will, of course, talk much more about NVIDIA inside out and give you a good feeling what it would be like to work with us.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. And I think, yeah, exactly. When we were trying to kind of formulate the discussion, looking at your questions, a lot about what people ask was about how is it to work for such a fast-paced company. And actually, maybe the first question that I will address is like maybe for you, Jan, like to talk a little bit about like highlights of the current projects and also your perspective on the landscape in Europe when it comes to autonomous driving. Many people, compare to US to Europe. So what are the basically challenges that you face while working on these topics? And maybe also what makes you very excited about it at the same time?
So, I mean, I think many of the big German OEMs know that autonomous driving is the next big thing for them. And I mean, we have seen examples in other industries where they have missed kind of this digital market, for example, like Nokia in the smartphone handy market. So I think the OEMs in Europe are quite aware of that. So we're actually receiving a lot of questions from, I would say, all OEMs throughout Europe. So we are working a lot with all of them on different topics, starting from the classical multimedia kind of application, where we have some new beautiful collaboration with Mercedes for their new user experience, their AI-powered user experience, to say it. And of course, we're working a lot on way more advanced autonomous driving projects, some of which are like what we call level 4 project, which would mean like autonomous driving on the highway, on-ramp to off-ramp, and even some level 5 project, which would typically be the robotaxi, in an urban environment. So yeah, we have a lot of work going on there with different OEMs. So some of them, which I can mention already, is like we're working with Audi, we're working with Volvo, we are working with several tier 1s like Veoneer, and a lot of startups. Like, for example, there's a Swedish startup that I'm working with, which is called Zenuity. They're doing software for autonomous driving. And so there's a lot of partners. So in total, it's an ecosystem of around 320 plus companies that we're currently working it only in the field of autonomous driving and that are actively using our technology. Okay, biggest challenges. So due to my opinion, one of the biggest challenge in the whole area will become the verification and validation of such a complex software and hardware system. And we're very actively working on that in different areas. So first of all, with our new chip, we have this new ASIL level. So there's this ISO 26262 norm for functional safety, and they define different levels for safety for chips. And our new chip that we just released has the second highest ASIL standard, which is ASIL C. And on the whole platform that we're just like about to deliver, we can reach ASIL D using multiple of these chips. So this is one component, the hardware side, and of course another component, how to validate an AI-based software system. And some of the technologies we're experimenting with or we are actively working on is like simulation environments where we can have like a virtual driving school where the cars can like virtually drive millions of miles yeah, to get them the software like verified in like several corner cases that we would have a hard time to reproduce like in real life.
It all sounds so amazing, and I just see your eyes that are shining. It looks really, really amazing because there's like motivation going out. And the question that we always kind of in this kind of webinars we get is, what does actually your day look like? How does the day of a software solution architect working in this field look like? How could you describe that?
Yes, so we discussed that before. So there's actually no such thing like a typical day in NVIDIA, and especially not in our team. So I mean, we're mostly driven by the customer activities. So in our team, each and every one has several accounts, so several customers assigned where he is in charge. And it could be that you come into the office and there's a super important request by a super important customer, and you would need to tackle that right now. Or there could be other days where all your customer activity runs smoothly, I would say, and you can start focus on your own development. So read some new scientific research papers, educate yourself on new topics. So it's really diverse, and but it can still go very, very deep. So if you're working on a topic, for example, debugging some software issue, you can really deep dive right into the topic and try to pinpoint the issue and then get it solved by engineering.
I think overall we don't have routine days. I think this is for all of the roles you have to like. That you come into the office and your entire plan will change in a second, and you will have to adjust and entirely structure your day new. This is, I think, for all of the roles within NVIDIA. All of the roles based in EMEA also deal with the US. So during the daytime, you do your job, you work on EMEA topics, and in late afternoon, you start working with your US colleagues. So we are a very global company.
That definitely sounds familiar. We're also working a lot with our HQ that is based in US. We know how that looks like, but it's very collaborative, and I think we are learning a lot from each other, which makes it great. And one of the interesting questions, like maybe you now also covered, but like how much autonomy and self-direction do you have as an NVIDIA employee?
Well, I mean, it depends. It depends on your background. It depends on your role. I mean, first of all, I need to say, getting used to NVIDIA, our culture needs ramp-up time. So you need some time to get used to the fast pacing, to the entire work setup. We usually only hire people with a lot of experience because we need people that proactively ask questions. We have setups, we have structures, but things are changing also a lot. For us, it's important always to deliver the most excellent solutions to our customers. And when customer comes first, you have to adjust to customer needs. So saying that and coming back to your questions, autonomy is important, but I think you also need the seniority to work autonomous.
Yeah, that's a good point, and maybe to kind of follow up on that, when talking about career opportunities at NVIDIA, requirements and overall hiring process, maybe you can give us the first introduction, actually, how that process look like for someone who comes with experience, but also for someone who is maybe changing a career and trying to gain the first experience with you. How would that look like? And then after that, we can talk about what actually current and open position exists at NVIDIA.
Talking about the process, I mean, usually we do a lot of phone interviews. So the first round of interviews will be either with the hiring manager or a senior from the team to get, and this really depends on the department. Some of the departments, they dive deep at the very beginning to get a good feeling and an understanding of the technical background, because all of the roles, no matter which roles, even sales roles, they're very technical. So everybody needs to have a good technical understanding and in some extent was working in a software role some point in their career. So I would say 1 or 2 phone interviews. If we are clear that this is a good match to the requirements, we invite the people to come on site most of the face-to-face interviews are done in Munich, and there's a panel, what we call panel interviews. So we have different people from NVIDIA working closely with the role that will do on a one-to-one base, do the interviews. So this is a good chance for the applicant to get a very broad understanding of the role from different perspectives, to meet a lot of people, so also get a sense of the culture through the kind of people that they meet, and also for us to have like a 360 picture of the candidate, how he interacts with different people, different roles, and how we could imagine him to be part of our teams. And most important for us is not only the professional technical background. We talked about this before we kicked off the webinar. For us, the personality is very important. We need very motivated and engaged people who are willing to drive topics and fit to our culture, which is kind of unique. And I can tell either now or later a bit more about the NVIDIA culture.
Yeah, maybe we can also follow up on that. Let's imagine that I'm very interested, and also how maybe you have your ways to kind of test this motivation, and how do you actually identify someone who is a real fit, and maybe you can then explain actually what would that mean for your culture, what the fit actually look like.
I mean, what I usually ask people, because I check a lot on culture, because I'm not a technical person, so I leave this to my very capable colleagues who check on all the technical details. So for me, it's really important to see whether a person can adjust to the culture and the speed. So I talk about their highlights of their careers, and let me explain what they are proud of and what they are interested in and what drives them. That's very important for me. I want to understand what makes them get up in the morning and go to work, and what excites them most, and what they love to do. If they're all about technology, for example, then they would be the right kind of people for us, because we have great talents in the company from all over the place. So we have 70% of our people are people from all places in the world. So in the Munich office, our company language is English on a daily basis, and we have people from India, from America, from Portugal, from Spain, from Greek, from Italy, from France. We don't have that many Germans, but that doesn't matter. What else? I mean, in the topic of autonomous driving, so many things are changing. So you need to be willing to learn, and this should be one of your drivers. If you are all about autonomous driving, then this is another plus for us. I was talking a lot about speed. So when I joined the company and my colleagues told me, hey, you will not imagine the speed in NVIDIA. So I thought to myself, I've worked for US companies. I know exactly what you're talking about. And when I joined, after a couple of days, I realized speed within NVIDIA is something completely different. And one of our VPs, he always says, we want to work in speed of light. We know it's not possible, but we want to be as close as possible to speed of light. So this is, one of our jokes. So whenever you need to adapt again to new project standards, speed of light again. You need to be dynamic. For a fast-pacing environment like NVIDIA, you need to be very dynamic, and you need to love it. If you're a person who loves routine, NVIDIA will not be your company of choice, and you will not survive. And last but not least, I would say, you need to be authentic and ambitious. Do you want to add anything to this, Jan?
Yeah. So maybe just giving an example for the fast-paced environment that we're talking about. So a couple of months after I joined, my whole team was moved to a completely other branch of the company with a completely new management and everything to better actually suit the customer needs. So this work, it's still not really ruled out how this is going to look in the end, but it's for sure that things are going to change, like and this can happen again. So if we will find out maybe in half a year that this is not working, we'll probably change it again. So this is just something, and no one is afraid of these changes. It just happens, and we see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, we're gonna do it again or do it another way.
It's a change for a purpose. So we're trying to achieve, excellent solutions product-wise and also structure-wise. So this is why sometimes these necessary changes have to take place to be more better, to offer a better support to our customers.
Yeah, maybe some background here. So right now we are mostly engaged in these pre-sales phases. So where we were engaging with the customers on prototypical projects. And right now, many of these projects are actually moving into these execution phases, where there's a real project built on top of that. So it was kind of necessary that we're going to be moved like somewhere in between to be closer to the execution phase as well, to be able to guide our customers further.
That sounds very, very dynamic, as you said. And now talking about the talent and the people joining you, I would like to maybe explore a little bit what happens when, we talked a little bit before, when someone is starting their career in this field. What kind of tips you have for them? And also, how can someone coming from a different background actually make a step and like enter the NVIDIA world and speed of light?
A while ago, we actually didn't have entry-level roles. It was all senior roles. We are now about to create in some areas, and also in Jan's team, we have 2 intern working student roles to support the team, and it's roles with limited responsibility. And I think what we can all say, our teams are supporting each other. So whenever we have a new hire starting in one of the teams, of course, there's a general onboarding, but then there's a very particular individual department onboarding. So we are trying to do everything we can to get people up to speed, especially when it's people on an entry level, because in EMEA, we are much smaller. We are just starting with these kind of entry-level roles. There's a big program in the headquarters in Santa Clara. And I will send you the link to that, Millie, that you can share with your students, because there's a lot of opportunities. And I've just seen on our website that this summer they are hiring a lot of students, and they have a lot of student roles in all areas. So that this is a huge program. In EMEA, of course, it's much smaller because the sites are smaller, and we need to see how we can accommodate this for the future. But there's definitely interest, because we want to also be able to engage with the young talents that are really hungry and want to find out what's out there.
Amazing. And talking about also talent, could you identify what are the, let's say, roles that you are now in need of, or let's say like the most demanded from your side, just to guide a little bit our students who are listening, like in what field you are now lacking the talent?
I mean, we are growing a lot in the automotive section. So we have different automotive teams based in Munich. One is, of course, Jan's team, application autonomous driving. We have an autonomous driving platform team, where we also have an entry-level role too, actually. We have a system software team. They work with the customers once they are actually our customers. So the application autonomous driving and platform team, they are more working in the pre-sales phase. The system software engineers, they work when the potential customer signed the contract and is a customer. And we also have a new team in Berlin where we will grow a team. So all of these roles, and it's in automotive, I was just looking and summarizing them. It's about 23 roles that we have open, all published on our career page. So you can find any roles there. And we will particularly highlight the entry-level roles to you, because I think they are probably at the moment the most interesting roles for you.
Yeah, we will definitely share tomorrow as a follow-up after this email, not only the recording, but all the resources that we are now mentioning. You will get an email so that you can check your career portal and find out more about these roles. And maybe one question for Jan, what would be from your side tips? I mean, you're working now for NVIDIA. Could you identify what actually, also helped you understand better NVIDIA before you found the job, and actually how you prepared yourself for the whole interviewing process? What was helpful for you?
Yeah, I think it really helps to get at least a basic understanding of this whole AI topic. So, I mean, NVIDIA is all about AI. So we're applying AI in mainly each and every area. So it's really important for many of the roles to at least have a basic understanding of what happens under the hood. So, I mean, there's a lot of resources around, probably like a lot is even covered in these courses from Udacity. And there's even others. So we have our internal Deep Learning Institute, where students can, I think, even do courses for free or for like a small amount of charge. You will get like access to cloud instances. You can do some AI training. So, well, just get involved with the whole AI topic. I think this is really, really important and will become even more important. Yeah, apart from that, everything that that is connected to GPU and parallel computing might be helpful. So CUDA experience is really helpful. So I was, even in my interviews, I was asked a couple of questions about CUDA programming and about parallel programming. So this is definitely some skills that are really, really helpful here.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And we are getting also some interesting questions around what type of also jobs are possible. Do you also hire remote workers? Like, do you accept also like remote working? And also, are there possibilities to do a PhD researches with you?
Remote work, I think with the complexity we just described and with our culture, is something that would be too challenging. I think because you need a ramp-up time and you need to build your network and you need to understand the complexity of the products, it's extremely important to be on site. But we allow our employees some freedom. They can also, depending on the department, work from home every now and then. But yeah, remote work definitely not for the roles in automotive, because all the teams are based in Munich. You need to exchange with the teams, especially as in the first 6 months. So this is extremely important to get up to speed.
Yeah, that's really good to know. And I will now ask maybe now the last question of the submitted questions. So feel free to please post your questions on the chat that I assume is already happening, and Chris will be filtering and sending that to me. So we will open up in a few seconds a live Q&A. Maybe now, talking about Udacity and collaboration with you, what could you kind of highlight? What are the qualities coming from, someone who did the course with us, and what Udacity specializations are most relevant for NVIDIA?
So looking at the kind of courses you offer, and I mean, you did an event with us in Berlin a couple of weeks ago, and I exchanged with my hiring managers. So I think for most of the roles, we're looking at driving car engineer nano degree is very interesting for us. and also machine learning and artificial intelligence. I have a colleague, she looks into all of the deep learning roles. A lot are based in Moscow, but also some of them in Munich. So this is definitely also something that's interesting for us.
Good. I hope everybody noted that down. So I will start with a few questions coming from the chat. So Massimiliano has actually 2 questions. He asks, what is the typical career progression in the automotive engineering at NVIDIA, and how the performance is evaluated? Interesting.
I mean, we don't have, as we don't have routine dates, there is no particular career path. It really depends on you. I mean, we have opportunities to develop. This can be either inside the EMEA organization. You can develop from one department to another. This could also mean that you can apply for a job in the US. It really depends on your focus, on your background, on your performance, of course. And this is the second piece, I think, of the questions. How are we dealing with performance? We have performance reviews every year where there's a self-review piece and also a 360-degree feedback from people that work closely with the role.
Thank you. The next question is coming from Tarek. Do you take PhD students, and should the research be related to any an already existing research internally?
We have an open role for PhD students in Berlin because we have a kind of a research center in Berlin. When you look on the career page, it's very open. Really, we have some requirements, of course. So please feel free to have a look. This is open right now. It's a very hot job. We are interviewing for this right now. If this is of interest for you, feel free to apply. Yeah, this is what I can say about it. And I think there is more to come. I mean, as I said, we are just about creating these kind of roles, and there will be more in the future. The more we grow, the more roles we will have in this area.
Great. And maybe as a follow-up, that question says, does NVIDIA take MBA students with a technical background, 3 years as an automotive engineer with programming experience? As a profile, how does this sound to you?
Not too bad. It really depends on the details. I think, of course, we have requirements in the role. But we are also open to, I would class it as exotic profiles. As long as, of course, there is automotive experience is a key, as we discussed before we started the webinar. So this is definitely a big plus. Any kind of automotive experience that you can bring to the table is a plus. When you have additional technical background in machine learning, computer vision, other areas, then this is even better.
We like that answer. Great. And this is the same question I had just before we started. Julian asks, how big are your teams at NVIDIA typically?
I don't like the questions with the word typical. We don't have typical teams. It really depends. And feel free, Jan, to add. I mean, this depends also on the customers. The more customers we win, the bigger the teams will get, because we need to add resources. So we don't have a typical size of team.
Yeah, it's really hard to say. I think our team right now, I think it's 8 or 9, and we're growing up to 15 or so. So it's growing like crazy, and it's really not easy to answer.
And this will be changing in a couple of months' time anyhow. I mean, this is what we know today. This can change anytime.
Yeah, the only thing that is static is that there's always a change, right?
Yes, it's all about change, and this is something you need to love. If you're motivated by changes and you really see the positive in every change, then NVIDIA is your company.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think we as Udacity, we are really promoting lifelong learning. So this is also what keeps you motivated, gaining new skills and working, upskilling yourself and preparing yourself for actually this change that we are all facing in our jobs.
Absolutely.
The next question from Jose. This is a question directed to Jan. How much of your job is actual engineering, development, or research work versus other product management or strategic type of work?
This again is hard to. It really depends on you again. So I mean, so let me think. So for myself, I would roughly say 50-50. It should be roughly 50-50. So it's roughly 50% supporting the customer from like engineering side, so helping with debugging and this kind of support activity, preparing software, delivering demos, that kind of work, research, and of course there's another part which is this more pre-sales activity where you would go to customers, educate customers, or even do education on a like larger basis. So for example, with these DLI courses. So as an example, I'm giving such a course for, I think, around 150 attendees tomorrow at a conference. So this is one of our duties as well. So it's pretty diverse, and you can pretty much pick the things you like the most and dig into that.
And I mean, the requirements for the role can change anytime, right, Jan?
Sure.
This is from today and maybe for the next couple of weeks. I mean, this can change. When customers' requirements change, then different parts of the roles change.
Yeah, I mean, as we discussed before, so our whole team is moving more towards the execution phase. So this will include way more engineering for it as well from our team. So yeah, again, it's changing on a daily basis, but you're still in power of like shaping it like in the way I think it will suit you most, as long as you like fit into the whole company culture.
Yeah, sounds interesting. And one student is asking, if you're moving at the speed of light, how do you ensure a work-life balance for your employees and for everyone?
This is, of course, a challenge, and it's a challenge for everybody. So this is why I was also mentioning that we are trying to give some freedom also to our employees, because we ask for a lot of flexibility. So depending on the departments, work from home is possible. But this is something also that you as an individual will have to figure out. Since we are a global company, we are on global calls anytime. So you need to make sure with the different time zones that you also look into your work-life balance. If you do late calls, then you maybe pause in the late afternoon and you go home earlier and have 2 or 3 hours break, and then you jump on a call later on to make sure you are aligned with your US or APAC colleagues to make sure everybody knows what's going on in a project.
Yes. So maybe to add something here, if you're looking for a job from 9 to 5, this is definitely not what you're going to find. But what I can tell from my personal experience that is that NVIDIA is really, really flexible. So if you need some time off for some like hobby projects or so, you'll get it when there is time, of course. I mean, if there's important tasks, of course, you will probably do the important tasks first. But on the other hand, they're really, really flexible. So no one will judge you if you come in the office later, if there's like no duties that morning, for example.
And we like to call ourselves a 12,000 people global startup. So this maybe also describes the kind of culture. Although we are growing and we're getting bigger and bigger, this is in our DNA. We are very flexible. And as Jan was saying, we have some people, they work very late, but they start late. So as soon as we get the best out of our employees and make sure that they can really meet deadlines and we can deliver excellent products, we will make it work somehow.
Good. Thank you for that. The next question is coming from Nikos. He's asking, is system engineering the area most connected to the customers? Can you roughly describe the interface between the platform and customer projects? Is it some sort of work product reuse? For Jan, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we as NVIDIA provide a reference platform, especially in the automotive domain. And of course, if a customer wants to apply this platform to his specific products, there will be some customizations needed. And these customizations, hardware or software-wise, are typically handled by the system engineers in combination with the clients. So yeah, in that sense, I mean, they exist both on more platform hardware-related side as well as software-related side.
So most of the automotive roles, they deal with customers. So I don't think we have any automotive roles that don't have customer exposure. It really depends also on the customer you are responsible for, how much time you spend also at customer sites, and of course on the escalations. If you are on a project with a lot of escalations, you might be asked to be at the customer side more often. At the beginning of a project, also, you need to get to know your customer. You will also be there a lot.
Okay. The next question, actually, two questions are related to the simulation that Jan mentioned just before. So Julian is asking, how do you validate your simulation? How do you ensure they match up with reality?
Okay, so good question. So first of all, this is really like more research or in-house development. So that's not a real product that we're offering today. So we're, I would say, to some extent still in the process of figuring that out. And to another extent, we never want to replace like real recordings or real data collection with that simulation. We just want to have it as an additional step. So to have another validation, and I mean, the iterations are way faster if you have this software in the loop simulation circle. So developers can test it in the simulator right at their desk before like delivering a critical patch, for example, which would not be possible for like a whole validation with all the data required.
Okay, and maybe a next question also regarding this. Maybe, yeah, you feel free to answer or not to answer. Are you going to release or make it a commercial product, your autonomous driving virtual environment for closed loop testing?
I think, I mean, we have some pretty nice demos about that. So if you haven't seen it, you can check it out from the last GTCs. It's, I mean, again, NVIDIA is so fast changing. So maybe it becomes a product, maybe it does not, maybe it's only for internal effort. I can really not tell.
The time will tell.
Yes, absolutely.
So we have a question coming from Tarek. He's asking, for employees in research positions, do you allow them to publish results? Very specific question, but maybe you had experience.
I mean, yeah, to some extent, for sure. I mean, there is some official process around that. But I know we have NVIDIA research papers out there. Maybe one of the most famous ones is the one about our pilot net, our like more or less end-to-end deep learning approach to drive a car autonomously. This is actually published, so all of you can check it out on archive. So it's definitely possible. There's just some process around that, making sure that we're not leaking any IP here.
Right. Yeah. Good. Next question is coming from Patrick. What are the advantages of joining NVIDIA for autonomous driving versus joining an OEM directly?
I can comment that from my personal experience. So if you want to be involved in software development and so building a real product, better join like NVIDIA than an OEM. So, so I have worked for an OEM in an internship role by that time, and I realized that OEMs are mainly specifying the functions and that they want to achieve, decomposing these functions, and then it's up to the suppliers and silicon vendors like NVIDIA, for example, to implement these functions. So in the end, OEMs will just end up buying whatever the tier ones and silicon vendors are going to build for them.
Good. This is really good information. And another question coming from Massimiliano: do engineers share their knowledge in internal meetings periodically? How is the internal knowledge shared?
So that's actually pretty epic. So we have a very open culture. So we will for a lot of information sharing, we use Confluence. So you will find Confluence pages on each and every topic, in each and every research that we've done, and it's just free access for everyone. So there's no like access limitation. So if you're really up to it, you can find whatever information you like. And there's, of course, we have internal messengers like Slack. So I have very good experience with just texting the colleagues directly that have worked on something and getting really quick and nice responses to the questions that I had. So that's actually a really nice cultural thing.
This is actually also one of our values, to work as one team. So we try to do knowledge transfer, and wherever we can support colleagues, we will do this to make sure they are up to speed and they can hit their deadlines and all the rest of it.
Great. A real community.
Yes. Big family.
So we have a few questions. I think we have time for 2-3 more, and then we will be wrapping up with some announcements also from side of NVIDIA. It's coming from Nikos. For German locations, how important is the language, especially dealing with German automotive industry? Is a language course provided as a part of integration program?
It depends on the role. It depends on the customer. So we have, for example, some roles where you work with a German customer and they require fluency in German. Not for all of the roles this is necessary. We do offer German language classes during the work hours to our employees. We have a vendor, and they do a little test, and then you will be added to a group that has the same kind of language level that you have. Yes. So we try to help the international employees.
Maybe one more comment from my side. So within my team, I'm the only native German speaker, and I'm actually assigned to Scandinavia.
That's good to hear. German is not an easy language to learn.
For sure.
And we also try to help them practice it, because we are also used to speaking English, and we sometimes even do German lunches with the international colleagues to give them a forum to practice. Yes.
They're just amazing. And what about, we are now talking a few questions around how you actually support employees. One question is regarding people with family and children. So basically, from your experience, how easy it's to manage work and home life for someone with a family. So just if you have any examples to share, I'm sure you have also people with this similar background. And also, do you offer some kind of a relocation help in case people, moving from around the world?
Again, I mean, it depends on the role, and as we have so many different nationalities in the company, and this is not only related to Munich. I think this is within all different bigger locations that you have people working from all over the world there. I think probably when you come from Spain, and we already have some Spanish colleagues, they will help each other with the different challenges that you might face. And yeah, depending on your seniority, on the role you hired against, we try to offer help in any case. We have documents, and we try to guide the employees that have to relocate. But I couldn't give you a typical answer on this. Again, we don't like the word typical. This all depends on the package.
Yeah, this is great. We have, thank you for all who joined the chat and all these questions. We have seen that all these questions are really coming from people who are ready to apply, which is great. And maybe to kind of close this Q&A session, I would ask, like, from our side, just a quick tip for someone who is, starting this job seeking, not very easy period. What would be your personal tip for someone who wants to kind of join you and present themselves to NVIDIA as a future employee? Just a short, like, advice or tip that you would share with our audience tonight.
I think I start, and Jan, feel free to add. For us, the motivation why people want to join NVIDIA is important. I don't like the standard applications. I mean, I run through my over 50 roles that I need to fill, and I like to see why people are interested in NVIDIA and what do they like about the role. I mean, I understand that people in the Udacity network, they maybe have already an automotive background. Some might not have an automotive background, but talk about your motivation. What drives you? Why do you want to work for NVIDIA? What's so interesting and unique for you about the company?
And Jan, sorry, I just muted myself. Jan, what would you like to share as well as your kind of point of view, how you could encourage people to take this step?
I think Carolyn has covered most of the topics, but what I found really helpful is just being authentic. So just try to be yourself, and try to show that you're really into engineering and that you really love the stuff that you're doing. And so that worked out really well for me.
Yeah, I think we love people that are honest and authentic. So, and we will figure out if you are telling us a big story anyhow. So yeah, make sure you love what you're doing and express that to any extent.
Sounds great. And I think if we learn something from our students is that there is a huge motivation for someone, dedicating their time for 9 months long self-driving car engineering program. So that has been already, a big step in their lives. And I think it's very important that you also learn how to, present what you have done. We have career projects as part of our courses that actually dedicated time to, work on your LinkedIn profile, your resumes, your cover letter. So everything that, present yourself at the first, and sometimes, structuring your experience a very, very difficult point in like job seeking period. So I think all of this was a great resource for our students. And maybe, Carolyn, if you want to share a future events coming up with NVIDIA that we wanted to mention, and we will send as a follow-up. I said that we will send the email with all this information, so don't worry. So with that, you can just share a few details, and then we will unfortunately have to say goodbye to our students.
Yeah, so there is an event in Frankfurt on June 24th. My two colleagues, Katrina and Joanna, will be there. It's called the STEAM Day at ICS conference. So if you're living around Frankfurt, you are interested, feel free to go there and talk to my colleagues. And our most important conference, GTC, is held in Munich. It's from October 9th to 11th. So if you are interested in that All of the recruiting team will be there, and a lot of colleagues from Jan's team and all kind of teams. So it's a great opportunity to talk to people, to find out more about products. There's a lot of demos and there's a lot of stuff going on. Jensen was a key speaker last year, and there's a lot of talks from partners and NVIDIA colleagues. So it's a really exciting conference for people that are interested in automotive autonomous driving.
Sounds great. So I would like to thank both of you. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure hosting this webinar with you today. I think we learned a lot about what it takes to get where you are, about the speed of light you're working in. And yeah, just very like a great evening and great, let's say, kickoff or our also collaboration on these webinars. I think we will have more in different fields to cover, so stay tuned. And yeah, thank you all and see you in the next webinar.
Thank you for having us, and wish you all a great evening and maybe meet you somewhere.
Yes, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.